Giant Orange Records.
Hi, I'm Stefan from Giant Orange Records. It's been another interesting year for record collecting, and I'm not going to do a best finds of the year. I'm just going to talk about records that I really connected with this year. Some of them I happened to get a hold of this year. Some have been sitting on my shelf and didn't really speak to me until this year. So, got quite a pile here, so it's time to get into it. This is a Jacques Dutronc 4-track EP called Et Moi, Et Moi, Et Moi. Really cool, like mid-60s French pop rock. They called him the Ray Davies of France, and it's just such a cool little 4-track EP. Disc Vogues were such a cool label. And then, man, the Taxi Boys, this one was from the early 80s. It's sort of like power pop with some punk energy. It's not quite punk. It's not quite psychedelic. Maybe sort of new wave, whatever. It's hard to classify, but I classify it as something that I really, really liked. And this one almost sort of like slipped through the cracks. And the guy that sold it to me on Discogs, his name is Dave Pierce, and he actually owned this little label and helped produce this awesome little EP. It's definitely a favorite find of the year. The Modernettes, View from the Bottom. This thing finally got reissued in maybe late 2024. The band was never happy with the way the original thing sounded when they got it back from the plant, and at that point they'd run out of money. And, music was shifting more towards new wave, and they were more sort of like a punkish guitar band. Anyway, I absolutely love this. This is the ending scene of that movie, Sunset Boulevard. And, yeah, great Vancouver music. I don't know, it just, it kind of like captures the wild guitars of a band like Television, but it's still rooted in kind of like, 60s garage rock and 70s punk. And man, the Beach Boys Today is a very intimate record, especially side 2, which almost seems like a precursor to Pet Sounds. And I kind of brushed this record off for a long time, but this year I was finally able to connect to it, and as major devastating news that we lost Brian Wilson in 2025. And last year or the year before, I really connected with Pet Sounds after rewatching the movie Love and Mercy. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Damn the Torpedoes. So I read Mike Campbell's book Heartbreaker this summer, and it's incredible. If you even remotely care about Tom Petty or Mike Campbell, definitely worth reading. He spends a good deal of the book talking about the recording of this album and how they spent a week just getting the drum sounds right, and then they did something like 200 takes of Refugee. Anyway, it's a great book, and I really just kind of never paid that much attention to this album. And it's their third album, and it's really the one where they got really, really good. The first 2 have some great songs on it, but this album is just solid all the way through. The Ramones, Road to Ruin. This is the recent Rhino Hi-Fi reissue. I also read Marky Ramone's book this year, and boy, if you're even remotely a Ramones fan, you absolutely have to read that book. And this is the first album that Marky drummed on. He joined the band on their 4th album, and I rewatched Rock and Roll High School this year. It's on YouTube. What a fun movie. I was actually in high school when I saw that, and I spent a good deal of the book talking about the filming of that movie. Meryl Fankhauser and the HMS Bounty, Things. This is a record I've been after a while. Originals are in like the $100+ range, but thankfully Gerson reissued this one. And I found it for $30. It's great psychedelic pop rock, kind of jangly, kind of badass, and there's some great harmonies there too. And sticking with Fankhauser, this was the band before that he was in was called Fapardokly, which is a funny little name. But this is sort of a more early mid-60s version of HMS Bounty. Very cool if you like folky psych rock. And then HMS Bounty was actually featured on this compilation called Baubles, which I bought a few years ago and never really connected with. But there's some awesome liner notes in this, and this was like a $5 pickup whenever I got it, and I just never really took the time to listen to it, but pretty much everything on here is really good. And in fact, I like the pacing of this. I've heard some of the albums of the songs that are on here, and I didn't really like the full albums, but putting the right song in the right order on the right comp just really fits the bill sometimes. Nippon Guitars by Takeshi Terauchi. A really awesome Japanese surf rock, sort of like the Ventures. It's sort of garagey, sort of psychedelic, just sort of awesome. Really, really enjoy this record and the musicianship on this album. Getting back into the mainstream catalog, this is the Superfine Dandelion self-titled debut. Really interesting, sort of folky garage rock. One of those acid archives things that everybody loves to talk about. But their song Crazy Town is a really great track on here. The rest of the album is really solid too. It's kind of like, Buffalo Springfield meets Revolver, but more like desert rock. The Pretty Things, the Vintage Years. I bought this compilation a few years ago. It was actually compiled by Greg Shaw, who brought you Bomp Magazine and the Pebbles compilations. And this was put out on Sire Records, the punk label that the Ramones were on, and a bunch of other cool CBGB type bands. And while the sound quality isn't great on this, the sources were probably hard to find. And it's a cool double EP. In fact, there's a whole series of the vintage years of various artists. And this is a good one. Miles Davis, In a Silent Way. I always kind of thought Bitches Brew was a little bit hard to listen to. This is sort of like the electric Miles Davis with electric guitars, but it's a lot more digestible. And this is a good, sort of reset palate cleanser album for me. And I think it's one of his finest pieces of music. The Litter, Distortions. This was reissued on Sundays this year, because even the reissues were getting to be like $50. So this one was a little bit less than that, and the originals go for big money. But it's some of the best garage rock, and it's the first track on the Pebbles compilation, on the first volume of that. It's mostly covers, but their couple originals are also really dynamite. And the covers are really dynamite too. Tons of awesome fuzz guitar going on here. And this is absolutely my favorite album by this band. This was an odd one. This is Willie and the Red Rubber Band, sort of like late 60s garage folk. Again, kind of like desert rock. It's not great. It's kind of like very mid in a lot of ways, but I kind of really like that about it. It's not like over the top or bombastic. It's just kind of a band doing their things, and there's some great songs and some great moments on here. Holy moly, this was a big one for me personally. The Clientele's Violet Hour, their first proper album, their second LP release from the early 2000s. Apparently the master tapes had been lost for a very long time, and the original vinyls were getting to be like $200-300. Thankfully, Merge Records reissued this after the band found the master tapes in the attic or something like that. And we finally have this for like $28. It's a fantastic, dreamy album. It's sort of like spending a foggy morning or a foggy night out in the garden and, reading poetry with awesome finger-picked guitars. And a band that influenced the Clientele, Love Forever Changes. Now, granted, I've listened to this album for a very long time now, but I spent a lot of time with my 68 Allentown pressing, which sounds really darn good. Enough has been said about this album, but it is one of the all-time greats. This is a band called Index. I love this cover. Originals go for a lot of money. They released this in 1967 originally. This is a 1984 reissue on Vox Records. I love this cover art so much. It's kind of like, think of if the Byrds and the Velvet Underground got together and had a male Nico for a singer and had Dick Dale as their lead guitarist. It just sort of captures the art rock, the craziness of the 60s, and there's nothing perfect about this album. There's a couple like goofs here and there, but that makes it that much more awesome and that much more human. And aside from, say, the Velvet Underground and the Fugs, nobody was really doing what they're doing. And again, they mixed it with more like surf rock and folk rock elements. It's a really enjoyable listen. This has been on my want list for a long time. I finally just pulled the trigger. A new band that sounds like an old band really inspired me. This is the Violet Mindfield Distorted Portrait. Sounds like they're referencing a lot of classic garage rock songs here. Like they have a song that sounds kind of like The Who and one that sounds kind of like The Seeds. But, you know, I'm glad that I get all the references. It's super enjoyable music. I believe they're from Los Angeles or somewhere like that. This record just really blew my mind when I heard it. And it's on Outro Records. I ordered it straight from their website. Great little indie label. And yeah, it's my favorite new album of new music from this year. Finally picked up a copy of the Jacuzzi Boys' No Seasons. This one's never been reissued, and I got this one for like $22 on Discogs. It's their first album, and it still really strikes home for me. It is kind of a noisy pressing, even though like the grooves look clean and there's no scratches on it. There's still some groove wear or surface noise. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. You just crank it up and it really rocks. This thing goes by so fast, and it's probably my second favorite Jacuzzi Boys album, even though they released a new album this year, which I don't have on vinyl yet. And we're wishing them well and keeping Gabriel in our thoughts here as he went through some major stuff this year. So I can't wait to go see this band again. I've seen them perform maybe 10 or 12 times since I moved to Florida. Got a nice copy of 96 Tears by Question Mark and the Myesterians. This is an original mono on Cameo. This thing just was cut so hot, this record. There's so much punch and so much life to it. It's definitely like an early garage punk classic, and yeah, I just love this album. It's one of my favorite bands ever. And speaking of garage punk, this one belongs to Denny, or it did at some point. So Denny, I have your record. It's a mono, Shadows of Night, Gloria. A really great sort of bluesy garage rock, psychedelic. There's some fuzz on there. And it's kind of like, you know, Chicago blues meets garage rock. One of the biggest surprises of the year was discovering Cannibal and the Headhunters. This is like Chicano soul from Los Angeles, East Los Angeles, with the they do a great cover of Land of a Thousand Dances, which is sort of like the version that Wilson Pickett picked up on and had the even bigger hit. This one was on Date Records, the same company that put out the Zombies Odyssey in America. And it's just, I don't know, soulful Latin rock, kind of garagey, kind of reminds me of like Buddy Holly, Richie Valens, Motown, and garage all at the same time. It's really sweet music. And talking about maybe less sweet music from LA, but sweet nonetheless because it's so badass, is the Pandoras, Stop Pretending. Really got into this band in the past year or so, and it's just awesomely recorded, all-girl garage rock on Rhino Records. I think this came out in 1986, which was the year that I was born. And yeah, this just rips. The thing about like garage records that were recorded in the 80s is the fidelity is a lot better than most garage records from the 60s. But it's just a fun time, and I love the rawness of this one. Going All the Way by the Squires. This is a compilation on Crypt Records. I absolutely love that label. And the liner notes are, and the hype sticker is incredible. It says, "Hey, here's a hot new LP by the #1 60s garage cult group ever, the Squires. Both sides of their rare 45, 9 more great songs, the ultimate in garage and folk punk. If you're gonna buy one 60s reissue, buy this one, assholes," says Jeff Conley of Liars. Anyway, it's a great little garagey comp. Found this in West Palm Beach. And the liner notes on this are great, like with all the Crypt records. Just really raw, hard-pounding garage rock. And then a more danceable one, the Gentrys, Keep On Dancin'. I love that song, and this is a great little record. There's a song on here called Don't Send Me No Flowers, I Ain't Dead Yet, and that might be my favorite discovery of the year. I think there's another version by another band that has that song on Pebbles somewhere. But it's a cheap little record, $8. It used to be 47 cents, but this just shows you how expensive vinyl has gotten. You know, it used to be the 47-cent special, and now it's $8. If that's not vinyl inflation, I don't know what is. But really, really enjoyed this one from 1965. They're like a frat band from Memphis, but it's so fun. And then mark this down as the year that I got into Frank Zappa. I finally understood Frank Zappa after getting this record, The Mothers of Invention, Freak Out. This is a mono copy. And just relevant quotes. I don't know, these guys are so funny. I found this album hilarious. It's sort of like a rock opera in some ways without being a rock opera. It's just very theatrical, very over the top. But some of the songs are just totally awesome, like Susie Cream Cheese, Help, I'm a Rock. Of course, it's a double album, which took me a while to get through, but I listened to it one Sunday morning and it really, really sunk in. So I hope everybody had a great year collecting records. And again, this year was about slowing down and being more intentional and just enjoying a lot of the treasures that I already have sitting back there on my shelves and just adding new records to the collection that absolutely must be part of the collection. And then I let go of a lot of records that I don't really listen to anymore. So these are records that I actually want to live with, and I will be listening to these well beyond the end of the year and well into the years to come. So keep listening and enjoy your records, and I'll see you next time.
Giant, orange, giant, orange, giant, orange, giant, orange.